Ho ho buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head. Last time on Chaos Head we had this whole earthquake business that was happening, and we then decided to go to school the next day. I think the next day, right? So the next day we went to school, or maybe it was the same day. I don't remember. But what I do remember is that we did go to school, and then there was a whole kerfuffle at the school. We were met by our friend Masumi. Nope. Yes, Masumi. The second I said, "Oh, I'm going to make sure I have the characters up." Yeah, Masumi. Who said that there's a whole ordeal, something's going down. We saw that Fez is on the roof. She jumps off the roof, and in a moment of desperation, we say we wish there was something that wasn't the hard concrete, even if it was just a bed of flowers. We blink, she lands right in a bed of flowers. And we're like, whoa, did we do that with our powers that we've kind of been alluding to all this time? It seems like we have magic powers that make flower beds, at least. But maybe not. Maybe something else is going on. Someone else did it, maybe? We were then confronted by... what is her name? Her name... And we all know it. Senna. Senna Aoi. She was like, what the hell are you doing? How did you do that thing without a D-sword as well? And I think we're now going to see how Fez is in the hospital, or maybe something else is happening. Well, let's find out. Let's find out. The floor of AH Tokyo General Hospital. Oh yeah, that was the other thing, that it turned out that Fez was a patient at a psychiatric hospital. So that immediately discredited her in a lot of people's eyes as to what she knew about the New Gen murders. Now that might be a slander. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Might be slander. Let's move on. The floor of AH Tokyo General Hospital that housed the psychiatric ward was engulfed in silence. Ever since the earthquake had struck, the emergency room and surgical ward had been faced with a difficult situation. Injured citizens who'd lost consciousness due to unexplained symptoms were being carried into the clinic one after the other. The psychiatric ward, meanwhile, was not nearly as involved in the relief efforts, nor were the outpatient facilities allowing the latter department to conclude its operations even earlier than usual. I had no idea what that said. The psychiatric ward, nor were the outpatient facilities allowing the latter department. They were not involved in the relief efforts, nor were the outpatient facilities. Cool. Allowing the latter department to conclude its operations even earlier than usual. I get it now. Okay, let's go. Over the last few days, patients suffering from PTSD had come pouring in, but at least for today, the psychiatric ward had finished all of its outpatient appointments. A nurse there, Hazuki Shino, realised that she'd been working non-stop ever since her shift began the night before, and that she had hardly even taken a break. This obviously left her feeling quite exhausted and, of course, hungry. For she was a vampire. The psychiatric ward had recently lost one of its doctors in the New Gen incidents, and the person replacing him had yet to arrive, leaving them constantly understaffed. However, despite the shortage, all that remained for today's work was some minor chores that Hazuki could pass off to the next nurse, allowing her to take some time off. A well-deserved rest. Reassuring herself that she only had to persevere for a little bit longer, Hazuki slapped her cheeks with both hands and began to walk through the empty lobby. Only to suddenly feel a gaze upon her back. Chills ran down the nape of her neck. Goosebumps rose across her skin. She reflexively looked behind her, but all she saw was a silent corridor. Not a soul was there. Huh? Miss Nurse! Ah! Hazuki jumped in surprise. She'd heard a voice come from an entirely different direction. The origin of the voice was a single man standing in the lobby, which Hazuki had been convinced was empty. He'd called out to her the moment he first saw her. He was a fairly young man and appeared quite virile. That's how you say that, virile. His complexion was nearly faultless, and he looked just as, if not more, healthy, so I guess we're here because we've got Suwa investigating. Who are you? Can I nab a few minutes of your time? I suppose. Much appreciated, miss. He smiled awkwardly, abruptly grabbing Hazuki's arm and started walking her from the lobby toward the stairs. Hazuki, still quite bewildered, watched as the man, Suwa Mamora, took out a black ID badge from his pocket and humbly held it out to her. It was a police badge. Stopping at the landing of a staircase, Suwa looked around carefully. He seemed to be very concerned about his surroundings. What did you need me for? Still having quite a bit of work left to do, Hazuki was feeling slightly restless, something Suwa seemed to understand implicitly. And then, without any form of introduction, Suwa produced a photo from his pocket. Have you seen this boy before? Depicted in the photo was the apathetic face of Nishijo Takumi. Hazuki, confident in her ability to recognize faces due to her profession, nodded her head. Nishijo Takumi. This is him, yeah? Yes, but... Hazuki's hesitation was only natural. Leaking a patient's private information could only spell trouble, even if it was to the police. But this was something Suwa had been aware of prior to speaking with Hazuki. Suddenly, Suwa's light attitude that he had been displaying up until that moment shifted to a far more serious one, and he began to speak in a low voice. I have a favour to ask. Can you let me take a teensy little peek at Nishijo Takumi's medical record? We'll keep it under the table. That's unthinkable. I can't do that. It's related to a case I'm working on, so it's really important. Now at a complete loss for words, Hazuki tried to leave, but Suwa circled around her and blocked her path. I could lose my job. I won't let that happen. Just do me this favour. Just do me this one favour, please. As a last resort, Suwa got down on his knees. Okay, interesting. Police tactics? Please stop. I really can't. It's for the sake of preventing any more victims. Presenting. Hazuki had no idea what she could do to make him give up. Unable to think of any proper way to say no, Hazuki could do nothing but stammer. Oh, and there we go. Next scene. I was in a bit of a daze after Sinner left, but I quickly shook myself out of it and dashed all the way back to my base. Luckily, I hadn't been confronted by Shogun or Yua on the way. In the end, I'd come back home without finding Rimi. With all the insanity caused by Ayase and the earthquake, the school would probably let everyone go home early. So maybe if I waited a bit, Rimi would show up. In the meantime, though, I'd just have to suck it up and deal with my own fear, alone. To distract myself from my growing anxiety, I went to try and gather information on my freshly restored PC. Right as I thought that, the notification light on my phone, which I'd set right next to my monitor, started blinking. When I opened it, I saw that I'd received a text. I thought it was Rimi trying to contact me, but when I opened it... something crazy happened at school today. There was a suicide attempt. It was freaky. Nanami. I haven't been that scared in a while. I hope she's okay. We were at school when it all went down, big bro. Oh, and wow, that earthquake was crazy too. It gave me a really bad headache, though. What was that all about? So she kind of enjoyed being part of the spectators, huh? That's not fucked up at all. Naturally, I didn't send a reply. I searched online for information on the assay. Phantasm's official homepage was still down. And none of the newspapers had reported on her, either. Well, I guess they had their hands full with the earthquake, so they couldn't really spend the time reporting on some random indie singer's suicide attempt. With things were now, I had no way of figuring out how exactly Ayase was doing, so I switched topics. There was way more information on the earthquake than when I had checked earlier. Apparently the death count had risen to 118, and the injured went above 300. Wow, I never thought fatalities would go beyond 100. The epicenter was Shibuya, and it seemed the damage hadn't spread outside of it. It had been a seismic intensity 5 quake. According to one article, most of the magenta media within Shibuya had been destroyed. When I thought about how I wasn't the only one to experience such tragedy, it made my frustration erupt all over again. It was a true, undeniable tragedy. My treasured Mopics and Eroge save data, they would never come back. I like, again, as I said this last time, how Takumi's prioritizing, how his priorities are all fucked. That aside, I couldn't help but feel that this was no normal earthquake. 118 people dying wasn't normal. And of course, that abnormality had grown into a hot topic of discussion online. Jesus Christ. How are they all such uncaring assholes? I tried to think back to what had happened during the earthquake. First, I'd been hit by a tremendous impact. My head had felt like it was boiling, exploding, even. A sensation I'd never experienced before. Getting hit by something that bad, dying from shock wouldn't be all that surprising. Telling myself that I shouldn't stick to just the internet, I decided to watch some news on TV as well. My PC had a TV tuner attached to it, so that was why I didn't have nor need an actual TV. We have received word about the unusually large number of casualties. As of this moment, there are over 118 confirmed fatalities and over 300 injured. We've managed to successfully reach the crew in front of Shibuya Station. Shimatani-san, what is the situation there? Oh. There was a similar seismic intensity 5 earthquake back in 2005. However, that earthquake had no victims to speak of, so why is it that there are over 100 on this occasion? The number of victims isn't proportional to what you would expect at this seismic intensity. There are multiple factors that may contribute to this.
Regrettably, we do not yet have any details on the cause of death, nor on the conditions of the injured who were transported to the nearest hospital. Today, we welcome experts to enlighten us on the complete destruction of magnetic media, an event which only occurred specifically within Shibuya. We are joined here by Mr. Hebeshibara Taizu of the Geological Industries Laboratory and, oh. Okay, it's her talking. Alright, she sounds like this. And Mr. Azoa Mikihoto of the Geological Survey Foundation's Environmental Center. Hiya, Shibara-san. Shibara-san. How would you explain the severe damage caused to magnetic devices that occurred during the earthquake? Before I answer your question, we must establish one very important factor. Roughly 200 meters below Shibuya lies a chunk of magnetite. That is to say, a geological stratum with large deposits of natural magnets. In terms of how to refer to strange stratum, it is classified as an igneous rock, but we casually address this area as Magnetite Valley. It's a valley of magnets embedded deep within the earth. As its name implies, it's a rather large vein of rock, more precisely, a dike. And see here, when a major stimulus arises, such as the earthquake that's just occurred, it's not surprising that the consequence of said stimulus would be, fatally damaging to all magnetic media on the surface, especially the components used for data recording. How absurd! Do you have a different opinion, Mr. Ozawa?
Very much so. While it is true that there's a large dike of magnetite below Shibuya, it is widely accepted that this magnetite formation, too weak to even be referred to as actual magnets, does not harbour sufficient power to disturb magnetic moments and stable magnetic fields above ground. In actuality, seismic intensity 5 earthquakes have already occurred in the past. multiple times even, yet in those cases, no such events as the one observed during this earthquake transpired. Thus, I think it's reasonable to assume that the origin of the problem is different from the one that you suggest. An interesting theory, but it's undeniable that the extraordinary number of casualties simply cannot be explained by the nature of the earthquake alone. I believe we can both agree on that. A not insignificant number of Shibuyan citizens reported suffering from a peculiar headache. From these testimonies, it's reasonable to surmise the magnetite is very likely to be involved. Do you mean to claim that a magnetic field could kill over 100 people? We'll be right back after these messages. In other words, they don't know anything concrete. Right after the earthquake, there'd been a huge white mist floating above Shibuya. It had turned the sky completely white, and yet it hadn't even been mentioned on the news. When the information had been fresh, everyone made sure to report on it. But now, they were acting like it never happened. Something about this just felt wrong. Where are we going now? Back to the hospital. The off-hours entrance to Tokyo General Hospital featured an area where ambulances could pull up alongside the building in order to deliver emergency patients, of course. 2 ambulances were currently parked there, and paramedics were carrying those injured during the earthquake into the hospital. A doctor wearing light green surgical scrubs and the middle-aged head nurse accompanying him were loudly directing the paramedics through the process. The area around the off-hours entrance was already lined with patients, waiting to receive treatment, the sheer number of which indicating how busy the doctors truly were. There were 2 types of patients getting carried into the hospital. First, the ones suffering from physical trauma. Patients would come with blood flowing from their arms, legs and forehead, their face contorted in pain. While their state made them difficult to look upon, their treatment had been relegated to a lower priority. The other type was those who were unconscious despite showing no signs of physical trauma. These patients were prioritized. The number of unconscious people was awfully high among the emergency patients. Patients that were brought in from this particular earthquake. Such a high number had not been observed following the previous major earthquakes. It was an entirely new phenomenon. Moreover, the doctors were unable to explain the reason why so many of them had fallen unconscious. That was a very slow transition. Another ambulance arrived at the hospital, its siren blaring loudly. Who's being dropped off here? When the emergency responders disembarked from the ambulance, a doctor asked the patient's condition, and a paramedic immediately responded with, "Top priority." That was all it took. In a normal situation, the doctor would have protested, asked for more information. In such an unprecedented, chaotic situation, one would have expected that just shouting top priority would be answered by a succinct, "You don't say." And yet, surprisingly, both the doctor and the head nurse merely gave a light nod, then proceeded to help unload the stretcher from the ambulance. The person lying on the stretcher was Kishimoto Ayase, that's Fez. She was unconscious, yet faint moans escaped her lips. Paying no mind to the resentful gazes of the injured patients sitting around the entrance, the doctor and the paramedics hurriedly carried the stretcher inside the hospital. Oh, there's Rumi. A girl stood at the hospital's main entrance, observing the situation from a distance. Sakihata Rumi's eyebrows furrowed atop her stern expression. Her teeth sank into her lip. Kishimoto-san. Obviously, I was concerned about the earthquake, but Shogun was way more of an issue to me. I couldn't get him out of my head. And speaking of,
My headache was much more or less gone, but anxiety had already swooped right in to replace it, as did the depression that came with being alone. I still hadn't heard from Remy. I tried to call her myself, but had gone straight to voicemail. Up until now, Remy had always come dashing in to rescue me, to tell me everything would be fine. So of all days for her not to do that, why today? And she told me that she would always stay by my side. I gritted my teeth, and then, as a way to escape my anxiety, I decided to focus entirely on reconfiguring my PC. First things first. I needed to fix the settings on my email software. It had been forever since I first set it up, so I couldn't remember how exactly to do it. So the first thing I had to do was find the instruction manual that had been included with the email software provided by my ISP. Despite not putting in much actual physical work, I found myself drenched in sweat. I'd nearly given up out of frustration multiple times throughout the process. It had ended up eating a full hour of my time, half of which was spent trying to find the damn manual, just to recover my email address. Well, now that I had it back, I should check it right away. You got mail, you big dum-dum. Ugh. I could finally hear that voice again. I felt so relieved. All that pain and suffering had all been worth it. What the fuck is this? I had 8 new emails, all of which were spam. Actually, hidden among the spam was an email with a strange subject line. Have mind-blowing sex. How weird. And an even stranger sender. Cybank. Bum bum. I groaned reflexively. What the hell? Was Nanami trying to prank me? If she was, then it was a pretty shitty thing to do. I genuinely wanted to punch her in the face. No, wait a minute. There was no reason for me to get an email from Nanami. From Nanami. She'd never contacted me using my computer's email address before. She'd always just texted me on my phone like she had earlier. And not only that, but I never even given her my email address. Was it just a coincidence? A fluke? Nanami was a common first name after all. And the phrase, whose eyes are those eyes, had become so popular, pretty much everyone was using it. There was nothing strange about it being used as a subject for a spam email. But just to soothe my anxiety, I decided to check the contents. That's pretty wordy. It was fun chatting with you earlier. Before anything else, though, I should mention the sender name is an alias. My actual name is Shogun. Okay. Huh? Shogun? No, it couldn't be. Shogun can't possibly know my email address. How would... Wait. What if Shogun had read my mind? If he'd done that, figuring out my email address would be child's play. That's impossible. Before anything else, though, I should mention the sender name is an alias. My actual name is Shogun. I'm glad Ayase-san's safe. What the hell? I initially planned to paint her as the next victim of my new gen canvas, but suicide works too. You've outdone yourself, Takumi-kun. You got a new high score. I'm very impressed, you really are something special. But enough about the stuff. Enough about that stuff. Let's talk about Nishijo Nanami-chan. The two of you are siblings, so I'd love to see some juicy drama unfold between you two. Ever since the earthquake hit, Shibuya's been pretty bloodthirsty. Whether we can reach a conclusion
Whether we can reach a conclusion so touching, it'll blast all that way in an instant. That's up to you. I can't read this bit properly. As I read the email, seeing how friendly he was acting toward me only served to creep me out even more. This guy, he was insane. Why would he... Right, what did it say? It's real hard to clear quests unarmed, isn't it? You're a hero, so why don't you deserve a legendary sword to match? I know you do, so I hope you're looking forward to what I've got in store for you. Oh, okay, cool, we got the rest of it. At 9 PM tonight, I want you to come to the roof of O Front. You're going to be on TV, so make sure you put on a heroic tunic. And then let the quest to rescue Nanami begin. Before I forget, did you get my present? Weird. He was talking about quests and high scores like this was some sort of game. I'm not a hero at all. I'm not Neidhart. He was planning to finally kill me. I couldn't go. There was no way I could go. I wanted to run away. Remy, I need you to protect me. Why wasn't she answering me when I tried to contact her? Maybe she'd been injured in the earthquake. But back when I'd seen Masumi-kun, he didn't mention anything happening to her. I picked up my phone and checked if I'd gotten any calls or texts from Remy. There's none. Remy, where did you... Right as I thought that, something stopped me. It was my texts. At the top of the list, I could see the text Nanami had sent me earlier. Was Nanami okay? I read Shogun's email again from top to bottom. Yeah. Got this bit. Let the quest to rescue Nanami begin. What? What was that supposed to mean? Forget that. I should just call Nanami. I opened the address book on my phone. Only 3 numbers were registered there. Rimi's, Nanami's, and a number from my parents' house. Nanami was always nagging me to call her. Every time we saw each other, she'd bug me about it. Well, since she'd asked so many times, I guess I could throw her a bone. So, please, answer. If you don't, I'm never calling you again. I swear to God, if you are injured during the earthquake and not answering because of it, I'll never let you hear the end of it. I selected Nanami's phone and pressed the call button. I put the phone to my ear. I heard nothing. The ringing tone didn't start immediately. It was normal for my phone to take a second whenever I called with it, but right now, that 1 second of silence felt like an eternity. I was getting increasingly antsy. Hurry up already! Finally, it started. Oh. It's in this room. Huh? What? That sound. What was that sound? I pulled my phone away from my ear. An unfamiliar melody echoed through the room. Could it be a ringtone? Let's do red this time. I've had my fill of green options. Whose phone was ringing? With the timing, what else could it be? I shook my head. I never heard Nanami's ringtone, so there was no proof that the melody I was hearing was it. No proof at all. I was getting scared now. I pressed my phone back to my ear. Nanami still wasn't answering. Please pick up. Pick up the phone already.
Oh, she picked up. Nanami? Nanami? Are you there? Answer me! Where are you right now? Are you okay? Come on, say something! Nanami! Nanami! I called out desperately to the other end of the line, with a voice that answered back. Would you mind calming down a little? That voice was Shogun. How? I was horrified. I didn't want to accept it. I'd called Nanami's phone, but Shogun had answered. Completely dumbfounded. It took all I had to say the same thing I had before. How? Did you not understand what I meant by that email? This isn't happening. This can't be happening. Oop. And it wasn't happening. Well, yeah, that's because it wasn't happening. It'd been just a delusion. A delusion featuring the worst scenario I could think of. But reality wasn't too far off. Nanami still hadn't picked up, and the sound of someone's ringtone continued to echo throughout the room. The melody was a happy-go-lucky one. Something that was in harsh contrast to my current state of mind. The sense of dread within me was growing. There was no getting around it. Nanami's phone was in this room. I couldn't think of any other explanation. I couldn't avert my eyes from reality anymore. P.S. Before I forget, did you get my present? This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. It didn't matter how much sense it made, it just couldn't be true. I slowly lowered the hand holding my phone. I couldn't even blink. My throat was dry as a desert. Even still, I searched for the source of the sound. This time I slowly, ever so slowly, examined each and every object scattered through the room. I hated myself more than ever for not cleaning my room. If only I was more organised, I could have spotted where it was coming from immediately. Where the hell was it coming from? That box. The song was coming from inside of it. It was the size of about 2 Eroge cases. I like that that's his metric. At first I thought it was something I bought online, but there was nothing printed on it. There wasn't a shipping label either. It was sealed with duct tape. Had this large box always been here? Had it fallen from the bed during the earthquake? No. It couldn't have. I'd never seen it before. If it was something I bought online, I would have opened it straight away. If it was something I'd sold and was shipping to someone else, I'd have sent it off the moment I sealed it up. For a second I considered that maybe Nanami had dropped it off, but I couldn't remember her bringing in a cardboard box of this size. Which would only mean... During the hour I'd been out of school, someone had entered my base. I have a present for you. I hope it pleases you. Terrifying. My heart was beating out my chest. In a panic, I went to check the lock on my door. A chill ran down my spine. Earlier in the day, when I'd wandered outside my base, I didn't remember locking the door. And I couldn't blame myself. At the time, I'd been suffering from a stabbing headache and I was really dizzy. When I'd come back from school an hour later, I hadn't locked the door then either. Anyone could have easily gotten in. Was it Shogun? Had Shogun really broken in? I looked at the box again. The song was still playing. Nanami's phone was in there. I nervously lifted the cardboard box. What's in the box? It was heavy. With how heavy it was, there was no way there was just a phone inside. It weighed about the same as 500 milliliters of soda. Milliliters. I was hesitant to open it. I had a very bad feeling about this. I don't want to open it. But there was nothing else I could do. I had to open it. I was too worried about Nanami. She was a total brat, but at the end of the day, she was still my little sister. Nanami's phone was in the box. In other words, someone had taken her phone from her. Now then, let the quest to rescue Nanami begin. That had been in Shogun's email. Thank you. I looked at the clock. It was already past 7:30. Nanami might be in danger. I had no choice but to open it. My heart refused to stop pounding. Large drops of sweat began trickling down my forehead. With a moan, I wiped away the sweat with the back of my hand, and then I slowly tore off the shoddily applied duct tape. Please, no. Please, no. Please, no. Please, no. Please, no. Mumbling that like a prayer, I opened the box. Okay. Inside was a lump of aluminium foil, packed carefully with cushioning material. I peeked fearfully inside the box, but the phone was nowhere to be seen. The song was coming from inside the foil. Sweat got in my eyes and it stung. Before I knew it, my entire body had gotten soaked in sweat. No, I can't do this anymore. Why me? Why does it have to be me? I nearly said those tearful complaints out loud. I pleaded with Saratan for comfort, but she didn't say anything. A myriad of delusions swirled within my head, so much so that it felt like it was on the verge of exploding. I couldn't even focus hard enough to have a delusional conversation with Saratan. My mind was racing so fast I couldn't even think straight. And yet, despite the near shutdown of my brain, the happy-go-lucky melody from the phone kept assaulting me relentlessly. I'm going to open it. Having made up my mind, I pinched the edges of the aluminium foil with my fingers. Closed my eyes. Held my breath. And tore off the aluminium foil in one go. I could hear the song even more clearly than before. I was too afraid to open my eyes. I tried as hard as I could to catch my breath, but to no avail. It was fine. Everything was fine, there was nothing to be afraid of. It was just a harmless prank from Nanami. Just wait. Any second now, Nanami's going to burst into the room with a big smile on her face yelling, "Surprise! Haha, I got you!" Yeah, I was sure of it. There was no reason to even consider anything else. Once she did that, I'd lay into her like never before, then I'd never talk to her ever again. Go on, Nanami, prove me right. I had to open my eyes. I couldn't keep staring at the darkness. Not looking at it was only making things worse. All it did was force me to imagine what horrors might be inside. I couldn't handle any more terrifying delusions. And so, I slowly opened my eyes and saw it. Oh my god! Oh! Lying in the foil was a hand. I didn't expect that. A cleanly severed, slender hand. Grasped in that hand was a phone identical to mine. And wrapped around its wrist was... Oh, it's a... Oh, it's a cute bangle. Okay, then I'll take it off your hands. Hehe, so what do you think? Does it look good on me? A yellow leather band that had turned crimson. A bangle. Ah! Poor Takumi. Was that a delusion? Was that real? What I'm about to discuss from this moment forward will get rather technical. You're a former doctor, are you not? It would be most appreciated if your explanation remained clear and concise, much like you would be with a patient. Oh, I see, that was him talking. I'll strive to do so. Now then, within the human brain are hundreds of millions of cells. Each of these cells are linked together by microscopic, slender threads. You may think of these as if a circle of people were clasping hands. In actuality, however, positioned at the edge of each nerve lies an extremely narrow space between these sets of aforementioned hands. When information is sent via electrical signals to a brain cell, microscopic molecules of dopamine are transmitted to the palm of a cell's hand, perhaps akin to a thrown ball. The brain cell on the receiving end then catches these particles, converts the information contained within them back into electrical signals, and then repeats the process with its neighbouring cells. Simply put, the brain is structured around the repetition of this process. The second generation Noah 2, Noah the Second, developed by my company, interferes with this mechanism and allows us to show people artificial images. Oh, interesting. Something akin to a hologram. Or perhaps a hallucination. It would be closer to a hallucination than a hologram. However, the distinct difference between those concepts is that the artificial image possesses weight, a definite presence. The human eye. Our sense of sight is truly most fascinating. The field of vision of a single eye extends to approximately 60 degrees, nasally, and 100 degrees temporally. In addition, the overlapping fields of vision for both eyes is 120 degrees, and when included the peripheral vision, it reaches from 180 to 200 degrees. And yet within these impressive measurements there are, as I previously detailed, dead spots. Sight is, without a doubt, the sense which is the most deeply connected to the brain. Around 80% of the brain's usage is dedicated to the processing of information obtained through the optic nerves. The Committee of 300 is paying close attention to these subjects as well. The human sense of sight remains immersed in mystery. Around the world, even counting only the facets of research that specialise in it, you'll find well over 1,000 topics involving the matter. Several years ago, the United States of America produced a memorandum named Strengthened Protections for Human Subjects of Classified Research. Was that a consequence of the committee's pressuring? No, it did not arise from pressure, it was a selection. The Committee of 300 does not welcome the prospect of some researcher of unknown origin setting a foot into this field of study. Naturally, those instructions weren't given solely to the United States, but to other countries across the globe as well. Our country has quite the freedom in comparison. It does not even hinder the actions of a person such as I. Don't be misled. I don't know who. I'm guessing it's this? Don't be misled. What person do you think we're here to serve? Purpose. You've already been selected. Thus, your actions are expected to bear more fruits than the commoners. Results that would surpass even the Committee of 300s. Results that would surpass even the Committee of 300s, you mean? I advise you to avoid such careless speech. For the time being, we mustn't allow anyone to learn of our real objective. Not even the committee. Pardon my speaking out of turn. You may resume your explanation. The artificial images produced by Noah II are converted into optic nerve impulses and radiated as electromagnetic waves. They penetrate the skin and cranium of the person targeted by them, and are then intercepted by the dopamine receptors, which I previously referred to as the palm of our hand, or the palm of our hand. And ultimately, the process terminates by inserting the images into the subject's dead spots. People who reside within areas with the GE rate as high are particularly susceptible to airborne image-based impulse signals. In these instances, their brains, in a confused, more receptive state, will pass artificial images as real. This is the mechanism through which we are able to produce something from nothing in the eyes of the population. If I may provide an example, through the use of Noah II, it'd be a simple matter to make people see your campaign posters wherever they travelled. However, one prerequisite must be fulfilled. The people's biorhythms must be in a high state. Ooh. Inducing will through illusions. Inducing will through illusions? It's a mechanism quite comparable to a silent weapon. Silent weapon. Devices designed to implement mind control on a global scale. They allow for the automation of society and the enslavement of all humanity except for a few elite. Based on the top secret document Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Ooh. That doesn't sound good. As long as the requirements are met, one may transform the world perceived by the subject as they see fit. Does that mean its power equals that of Giglomaniacs? That's correct. Noah II could very well be described as a mechanical Giglomaniac. If it begins operating according to theoretical values, it will soon be able to reproduce a power that is equal to, no, greater than that of a Giglomaniac. But what of its practical range of effect? Wouldn't that electromagnetic wave, this guy never talks, it's just these two, leak into the surrounding area? If so, that far goes any hope of multiplicity of use. We've no desire to conduct indiscriminate brainwashing. Subjects are meaningless if they cannot be precisely selected. Or maybe this is the same person? Yes. Worry not, a certain factor has been implemented for that very purpose. If I may direct your attention toward the monitor. Oh. What is with these low-life scum? Within my company, they're what we call porters. More precisely, one could perhaps refer to them as mind control units. Ah, this is the thing that she destroyed. Within the rucksacks they carry are ports. Devices designed to serve as transceivers for the impulses originated from Noah II. These ports receive the signals, then emit them remotely out into the surrounding region. Portable terminals in some. Through them, restrictions on the effective range of effect are eliminated. Operating it in a limited fashion becomes a non-issue as well. I understand what you're proposing. You may continue proceeding with your plan. However, please refrain from taking any action that could alert the Committee of 300. Aside from that, I care not how victims must be sacrificed. I'm deeply grateful for your understanding. With that, I'd like to request that you provide me with personal suitable... hang on. With that, I would like to request that you provide me with personnel suitable to serve as porters. We will make the arrangements. As well as that, it'd be most appreciated if you gentlemen could maintain control over the media. All is for the sake of we three's long-sought ideal. And I guess that's an episode? Jesus Christ, I can't believe that Nanami's hand has been cut off. Or is it all going to be a delusion? Alright, well, I guess we're going to jump right into another episode. But before we do, I'll say goodbye for now. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head. We'll see you next time. We're going to find out what Seratan's going to tell us to make us feel better about our potentially dead sister's hand that we've got in a box. Alright, see you later. Have a good evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Bye.